Director General Rafael Grossi, thank you for joining us again this morning.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
I want to start with Iran because it does seem to be sort of the most pressing issue. It has temporarily closed its nuclear facilities after strikes against Israel last week. They have now reopened, but are you still concerned that that could be a target for Israel?
Well, in general, of course, everything is taking place against the backdrop of increased tension. We have seen some statements from Iran as well, referring to this. What we say is that there should be utmost restraint. Nuclear facilities should never be a target of a military target of any kind, because of the obvious consequences of any attack on a facility, peaceful or military, that could be hosting nuclear material. Mm-hmm. So I hope that there is restraint.
From what I understand, your inspectors didn't get back to Iran's nuclear facilities until Tuesday. Have they been able to ascertain what is happening on the ground there? Whether
Rosemary, I should say that things are, as we speak, are normal. I mean, to the extent that we can talk about normalcy in the current circumstances, but the facilities are operating. Our inspectors are back there. Okay. I decided to let them stay at their Iran headquarters and not go to the facilities, because Iran itself had closed for Sunday. They said yes, Monday would be okay, but for measure of prudence, we decided to let another day pass. So for now, things are normal.
How would you describe Iran's nuclear capabilities right now? Do you have a sense of what they are at this stage?
We do. We inspect Iran every day. The nuclear program of the Islamic Republic of Iran has grown enormously, in particular since the JCPOA. You remember this agreement that used to be in place among P5+1, Germany in this case, and the Islamic Republic of Iran. You remember this was unilaterally sidelined by the United States. Then Iran followed through. And then we are at a place where there are no limitations in terms of uranium enrichment, centrifuge production capacities, and other things for Iran. Which means, and Iran has since then has passed legislation increasing dramatically the goals and the targets for that program, and they are doing exactly that. So our point with Iran has been that they can proceed with activities in as much as they comply with the safeguards, inspections, activities, and verification on our side. And we do have a situation here, since we are, in our opinion, we are not having the degree of access and cooperation that we should have. So I think there is a need. There are also certain areas that Iran has not been clarifying as per our request, areas where Iran, or where rather the agency found traces of enriched uranium at places that were not supposed to be having any nuclear material, or let alone material activity at all. So we have been asking them these questions, and we haven't been able to make the progress we were expecting to have. So all of a sudden, you have this unsatisfactory, if you want, situation in general, and then you have this added tension that encompasses and covers, I would say, the whole thing. And we are in a situation that is increasingly unstable, I would say.
Do you plan to travel to Iran to deliver that message personally?
I hope so. Yeah. I had a contact already with the vice president of Iran, Mr. Islami, who is my partner in these negotiations, consultations. He expressed the wish that I come. We are talking about characteristics, the discussions that we should have, in my opinion, given the circumstances, this should be pretty substantive, and we should be able to get to some very concrete agreements and I would say improvements. Otherwise, I don't know what would be the use of another trip. But my intention, we are an agency for peace, for non-proliferation. We must be available. We have to be always taking the initiative. So I hope to be able to do that again.
I do want to ask, the last time we spoke was about Ukraine, and I do want to ask you one question about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. It's come under a number of recent drone attacks there as well. How serious is the risk of a nuclear accident right now in Ukraine? How would you qualify that, Mr. Grossi?
Well, last week I was in New York. I was briefing the United Nations Security Council, and that says it all. I mean, This has become an issue that is threatening international peace and security. Since the last time we spoke, something serious happened in the sense that there has been target acquisition. Drones have landed on the roof of one of the reactors. Luckily, this time there was no fundamental damage, and it was rather superficial. But apart from the damage itself, perhaps it was not the intention to cause very serious damage, but to show that whomever is behind this, that they can do that. And I feel that this is extremely serious, and this is why I went to the UN Security Council to denounce this and to, again, as in the case of Iran and Israel, to make an appeal for restraint and cool heads.
Are you concerned about things tipping over in both the Middle East and in Ukraine and Russia? I mean, it does seem like we are at a really a stress point in both of those conflicts right now.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think it's fair to assume that on both, at the very least, we are not improving.
Yes.
And we see points of peaks of tension that could at any moment. In the case of Ukraine, this is a war, and in a war, there can be very, very quickly, you can have an escalation, which could end up in a situation which would be unmanageable. So I am extremely concerned about that. And in the case of the Middle East, the issue of the nuclear material, now nuclear facilities being targeted, you may remember that at the beginning of the Gaza crisis, there were also some loose talk about using nuclear weapons. I think this is extremely serious. All of this talk about nuclear weapons is something that should be avoided. And the agency is ready to play its role in trying to prevent all that.
Mr. Grossi, so nice of you to make the time. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.